Pokemon Snap was recently announced and it's looking pretty good. Unfortunately, this brought up the complaints about Pokemon Sword and Shield and their graphics. But does Snap actually look better? And if it does, why? Why would it look better than the mainline series? Let's take a look.
Dumo Plays.
As far as animations go, is Pokemon Snap better? No, not at all. Actually, they're using the exact same animations that Pokemon Sword and Shield did. This is because the Pokemon models and the animations are actually supplied by a company called Creatures. They're owned by the Pokemon Company, and they're the ones that handle all the modeling and the animations for the Pokemon that you see in the games. They handle it for the mainline games. They handle it for Pokemon Snap, Pokemon Go as well. And that's why the models and animations actually look basically exactly the same. During the Bring Back National Dex campaign, it was commonly being stated that Sword and Shield is being picked apart in a way that no other game would be. And, of course, some of the major complaints were things like the reuse of animations, something that's industry standard. These, of course, were being dismissed, and I found it interesting then. I'm finding it even more interesting now when we're seeing the comparison from Pokemon game to Pokemon game, and yet it's not being brought up. I just find it odd. Here we have a Buffalant showing off one of the big complaints of the animations. The turning in one spot without any transitional animations to show the turn. They just spin. And here we have a Zangoose showing the exact same thing in the trailer. It's because the animations are supplied and they weren't supplied with a turning animation. So they just have to spin it in place while using the walking animation. There's plenty of other weak animations that we see throughout the trailer. Emolga flying around is one of them. It's basically just a static pose that's drifting across the screen. That same thing is actually used in Pokemon Sword and Shield's new DLC, the Isle of Armor. It's just we're not zoomed in on the face. Other weak animations include the eating animations and the picking stuff up off the ground animations. Those are really just from Pokemon Sword and Shield's camping feature. As the most recently used version of them. And it surprises me, only slightly, that these aren't being brought up and that everyone seems very happy with the animations in Pokemon Snap at the moment. What about the models? Do they look better in Pokemon Snap? Well, as we said earlier, they're supplied by Creatures, so they're actually the same models. I will say, however, Pokemon Snap appears to have included a full lighting system, which is something that Pokemon Sword and Shield chose to omit. And, well, the lighting does make it look better. What about the environments? Do they look better in Snap? Well, I feel like the sky and the water are vast improvements over Pokemon Sword and Shield. But the rest of it? I don't know. The textures on the ground, the grass, the rocks, things like that. Slight improvement, maybe? Maybe? I don't know. If it are, it's not much. And what about the vegetation? Well, it's pretty much the same vegetation that's being used. There might be more of it on screen, which, again, adds to the appeal of the game and would make it actually look better. So then the question is, do I really think that Pokemon Snap looks better than Sword and Shield? Yeah, I do. But why? Why is it that Pokemon Snap, a spin-off game, looks better than the main series? Scope. It's the scope of the game and the amount of resources that they have. And I'm not talking about manpower or money. I'm talking more of, on the GPU side, how much they can put on screen. So what's the scope of the games? Well, Pokemon Sword and Shield is a full RPG. They have a story to create, a large world to create. It has to be explorable. They have systems that they have to create. They have the battle system that they have to make sure is just as refined as ever. They have to do balancing. They have to do bug checking to make sure nothing's game breaking. There's actually a fair bit involved in it, and it takes a fair number of people, which they have. What about Pokemon Snap? Well, it's essentially a slow-moving rail shooter. You're being pulled along by a string, following the path that's set out as you look around and take pictures of Pokemon. So what did they have to create? Well, the environment. It's pretty much it. The environment, the path, and the camera feature. So basically the entire game was built around the atmosphere and the look. So if they can't make it look better than Pokemon Sword and Shield, there's a bit of a problem. A big problem. Because that's all the game is. It's similar to racing games versus, say, an open world RPG. See, a racing game can hit higher resolutions and frame rates than an open world RPG can. They can do it a lot easier. The reason is that all the graphical power goes into making the cars look good, making the track look good, and making just enough surrounding the track so that it looks like it's a full world. See, when you go off the track, you'll hit a barrier. It won't allow you to go any further. So as long as you can see enough behind the barrier that it doesn't break the immersion of the world, you're golden. So for that reason, they can hit those higher numbers. Whereas the open world RPG, once you get to the edge, well, you need to be able to keep going. So there has to be more back there. So there's more time and more energy and more effort put into these things, as well as, of course, more resources being pulled from the GPU. It's similar to Pokemon Snap, how you're going to be pulled along the trail, you're not going to be able to deviate off the trail, and so they only have to put enough there to make it look like there's a world out there. And, well, this is actually something they did fairly similar in a way on the Isle of Armor DLC, where they made the areas smaller. See, in the original game, the wild area, you could see from one end to the other. But in the Isle of Armor, they cut it off. It's so they could actually put more things on screen. So the areas in the Isle of Armor will look better because they're not trying to render as many assets at once. It's just a battle of resources, and in doing something like a rail shooter or smaller areas, you have more resources to use so you can make the game look better. So in the end, does Pokemon Snap actually look better than Pokemon Sword and Shield? I would say so. Especially the lighting makes a huge difference. Other than that, a little bit. And it should. The game needs to look better. It's what the game is. It's what the game is about. It's about the environment. So if it can't make it look better than Pokemon Sword and Shield with the extra resources that they have, not through manpower, obviously through graphical power and resources on the Switch system itself, they're going to run into a bit of a problem. So, either way, let's look forward to it.